Yeah, because what? Boom. Oh, I didn't know. It
Ooh,
lets you
it told
know.
me that the meeting was being recorded.
Well, and it's also live on Facebook. So I guess here we are. Hello, everyone. Let me do a
Guess
quick
we're
intro.
everywhere.
Prestige worldwide, wide. Let me pull up to see, because usually Nick's the one that pulls this up. I got to pull up to see if anybody comments on the actual Facebook. Hold on a sec. On the Facebook. You
Is
know what I
there a
mean?
way for me to see too?
I think you just go to Facebook and go to our page and look up the live stream.
That's kind
For
of cool.
anybody. Yeah, isn't that neat? Pretty neat. Okay, well, let me do a quick intro for you because we like to do that for our people.
I'll stop that.
It's like, is
That's
that
cool.
me? Oh, I thought that was me. I was like, what's going on? Okay. Well, see, this is cool. This is the part about doing this podcast that I actually get to meet people that I have not really got to interact much before, but I'm really excited for this because it's my first episode back. Nick's been solo for the last couple episodes, so I've been unavailable, and he's been a champ and taking over hosting duties. And today he could make it, and I was able to do this. So here we are. I'm excited also because you have been talked about really well by a lot of people who I look up to. So I was just excited to meet an overall cool human and kind of make friends with you. It's so exciting to have you on here. I'm gonna try to brag about you as much as I can, but more than anything, I'm just gonna dig in so that way it's like a cool way of learning about you and about your accolades outside even of Southwestern. So we have Tessa Laplante here. Oh my God. More than anything, we have Wi-Fi. Okay. We were struggling with technical difficulties for the better part of 20 minutes just now, just trying to even get on here. But hey, glad to be here.
Are watching.
You are legendary because anybody who becomes a number one rookie is pretty much legendary for all time. Like, you never forget the person that was the number one first year, your first summer. And I wasn't. And I remember Hannah Reesberg was the number one first year. So that's an accomplishment in and of itself, because to come out your first summer doing this without anything like that, without any experience, and to just go kill it like that. And then ever since then, you kept going with a really decorated career, from what I understand. And so that's what we're here to do, is talk a little bit about that, about what you're up to now. But more than anything, let's take it from the top. Excited to get to know you. And so, who are we? Where are you at? Who is Tessa at the beginning of the first time that someone says, hey, what are you doing next summer? How did you hear about this? Where were you? What part of the year was it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, my entry into Southwestern was kind of unique, I guess. So both of my parents sold books.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my dad did it. They were both in the 80s. My dad did it for like 13 or so summers. And then my mom did it for 3. And I always grew up knowing about Southwestern as kind of like their love story because my mom's first summer, my dad was the like co-OL, AOL of her org, which Southwestern's changed a lot since then. It was a 50-person org and there were only like 7 girls.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
they met
Well,
that summer. You have a question?
yeah, I was going to say, for context, for anybody listening who isn't aware of how it is now, orgs are now maybe like 20 people, and there's
Normally,
more
yeah,
girls.
more like half and half.
Yeah, so 50 and 7 girls is a vast different world. Okay, sorry, go on.
You're good. So they met, I think my mom was like 20. My dad was like 25. And they started dating after the summer. I was told they started dating after the summer, and we're together for like 30 years. So
Oh my God.
anyway, I knew about Southwestern growing up, and I remember always thinking it was like this weird, cool thing that my parents did in college where they like made money and learned important lessons and worked really hard. And it was always just really intriguing to me. I would specifically ask my dad. I would probably talk to my dad more about it than my mom since he did it for a lot longer. But I remember I would like ask him a bunch of questions like why, or like how do you do well, or like why don't people do well, or like how, what do you say at the door? Like I was so curious. It would just seemed super strange. And he would he would answer all my questions, and then after like learning about it, I would always think in the back of my mind like that would be really cool to do one day, or thinking like I think that would be good for me. Like I feel like I would learn a lot doing that. And a lot of times I would say that too, and then he would just be like, "Yeah, we'll see." He was like super chill about it. Definitely not a like super forward parent, like kid has to sell books or whatever. He was just super chill. Um, and that kind of made me want to do it more because I was like, I feel like he doesn't think I could do it, but I think I could do it.
Dang.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of like how I heard about it. And then it was after my freshman year of college that I started thinking more about it. Um, I guess more about me. So I'm from Florida. I went to school in Virginia. Go Cavaliers. I graduated 2 years ago from UVA. But yeah, there were no book people on my
Oh,
campus.
oh.
So it was my freshman year of college, and it was winter break. And I remember uh, I was home for the break, and I went up to my mom and I was like, "Mom, I feel like if I'm gonna do the book thing, I would need to do it this year, like after my freshman year." Just because I thought like in later summers I'd probably be doing other things, maybe like more
Hmm.
related to my major. So I was just like, I feel like this is the year to do it. And she was
So,
like, okay, well, I don't really know, if it's still going on, but I can call my old OL from like 30 years ago. So that's what she did. She called, his name's Ken Burke, and he recruited her. So he was the older brother of her best friend in high school. Um, and he was also her OL her first summer. And so she called Ken. They're like still good friends. And she was like, "Hey, Tessa
hmm.
wants to sell books. Like, what's going on with Southwestern nowadays? Like, is that still going on?" And
Just easy recruit. Just who
and
wants it?
Ken was like, "Yes, my daughter Megan just finished her fifth summer. That's Megan Burke, so she sold for 5 summers."
Oh, okay.
And he said that she was all done, but he was like, "You gotta talk to Amy Pagosi."
Ah.
So she ended up being the person that recruited me.
Mm.
She used to be coached by Ken, I believe, in basketball, and was really close friends with Megan, and had just finished her fourth summer, I believe.
Okay.
Anyway, he built her up a ton. He's like, "This girl's a badass. Like, she's working super hard. She kicks butt. She's super well respected. If Tess is gonna be working with someone, she needs to work with Amy." And so, uh, Amy,
Total
like
badass.
somehow contact information happened. Amy calls me. This was back. I was back at school. I remember I was sitting in like the common area of like my freshman dorm, and I get this random number from Orlando. And that was still a time in my life where I did answer random phone calls. So I answered it, and I heard this just like spunky girl on the phone, like, "Hey, is this Tessa Laplante?" And I was like,
I can hear it
"Yeah."
too.
I
If
had
you
no
don't know
idea
Amy, you
who it
can totally
was.
hear
I didn't know
it.
who it was. She was like, "This is Amy Pagosi. Ken Burke suggested that I call you." And it took me a second to connect the dots. And then I was like, "Oh, yeah, Southwestern." Yes. And then we ended up talking for like an hour and a half, probably. about not Southwestern. I don't remember what we were talking about, but just got to know each other, connected right away. Amy did gymnastics growing up, so I did gymnastics too. So we talked about that for a long time, and just a bunch of random stuff. And then my interview process was kind of quick. I think I had like a virtual FaceTime info session,
Mm.
and then maybe just 2 follow-up conversations with her. But I was definitely a pony. I remember being like, thinking it was weird. I was going through an interview process. I was like, I already want to do this. Like, if I'm not doing it with Amy, I'm gonna find a way to go do this.
No
But
way.
still went through the process, and I'm blessed that Amy chose to work with me, and she's grown into one of my best friends, one of my biggest mentors, someone that I know I can call for anything and do call for most things.
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it just was crazy.
isn't it wild how, like, you think back? I mean, and I've talked about this with even people who had a tougher experience with Southwestern, that like, yeah, it might have been tough, but you would never regret having met that person. Like for me, it was a guy named Steve Thyden. Um, and like, regardless of where I go in life, I mean, he changed my life, and I still talk to him, we still keep in touch. He's always going to be a good friend. But it's interesting, that relationship that you can build with someone who, especially when it clicks well, like, it's
Mhm.
cool. It's a cool friendship to have. It's a cool bond. That's awesome. All right. Dope.
Really cool. That's
So
really
you're,
cool.
so many things about that. So your parents both sold books,
Yeah, sorry, I
and
went on like a run. I just was gonna
no, that was
do the
good. That's
story
good.
and be done.
I mean, I asked a question. That was good. That was good. So one of our better episodes, I think, was Omar Idribe. I think I talked 15 minutes. And it was all gold. So I'm totally about it. I'm totally about it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So your parents met. Now Nick and I have been talking about doing like a themed episode where we have like people and their kids who sold. So we're gonna see if we can get
We gotta get
some.
my mom on here. She's down with
Yeah. Is
it.
she here? Is she with you?
Yeah, I think she's on
Oh,
the phone. I'm at her house.
that might be a good story for another time, to like have you guys all
Oh, yes,
be on
for
it.
another time.
Yeah. But maybe, if she wants to make a cameo, that's totally cool. But so that's interesting because, Justin Wheelhouse, Justin, his parents
Yeah.
both sold books, and like he talks about how they never really mentioned Southwestern, just more the principles. So it's interesting that you knew it was called Southwestern, that you knew that he was an OL, right? Even before, like, you had the lingo down, right? Did they teach you about like HQs and ponies and all that stuff, or was it all new to you as well?
I think some things like, um, I remember hearing headquarters. Definitely knew what demos were.
Oh,
The controllables. We talked
that's
about the controllables growing up a lot. It wasn't ours demos attitude, but just the concept of things in life that you can control and things in life that you can't. Um, so yeah, that lingo.
mm,
I remember my dad would always tell me to be coachable in sports. So I know
that's
coachable.
cr-
I don't
that's
think it's in the
insane.
dictionary, but yeah, I guess I knew maybe some of the words
Wow.
more.
Well, it just makes me think, because like Vaco was just born, so my brother just had his baby.
Yes, little
Yeah,
Draco,
brand
Uncle
new uncle.
Andres.
Uncle Flash. That's my latest title, Uncle. And it's a blessing. But thinking back, um, like, we didn't. My parents, our parents, really like gave us those principles indirectly, and it just aligned. So that's why Southwestern made sense for us when we went through it, and as Danny's going through it. But it's so cool. I'm so excited for the baby Vaco to, you know, learn, like, to be because he's going to learn these things about life that his parents have learned. And it's so exciting. It's an interesting life growing up, uh, the kid of a couple of book people. So, and the fact that, both of them did it, because it could be like your dad sold and then he met your mom, something else, but like both of them, that's so cool. So when you went into sales school, like, it probably was a different type of shock, right? Because I mean, for me, it was like I got selected the last week of finals. Never heard of Southwestern. Wednesday
Wow.
was I got selected, and then I was in sales school. um, for you, it's like it was like 18 years of just this like mentality coaching. And so what was that? What was sales school like for you? You know, coming in, did your parents help you out with that? Was it just straight Amy? How was it?
Yeah. So Amy and I had been talking weekly for probably since the end of February, maybe since
Okay.
February. So we had definitely developed a relationship by that point. I do still remember like the shock of it. Um, so I was in a weird situation where my finals were a different week from the organization that I was going to be working
Uh,
with. So I went to sales school 1 week later, and it was I drove myself to Nashville from Virginia, showed up at Atrium Way, and Amy put me with Amber Lee Kessler's group, who I had
mm,
never met her before. I'd never had a conversation with her. I'd only just heard her built up from Amy.
she's also a
She was
badass.
like, yeah, it was the same conversation.
Yes.
She's like, Amber Lee's, she's the one I respect the most, and she's a badass, and you're going to be in great hands with her. And I think I
Yeah.
talked to Amy maybe every day or every other day during sales school. But yeah, I mean, it was a big thing to like make that move, to drive myself to Nashville, a place I'd never been before, and show up with a bunch of people I didn't know. I knew my sales talk, so I was happy about that, but everything else was new. Um, and yeah, and then it's just like normally a pretty intense week. I I think I cried every day. But it was more because I was emotional, I think, about just how big of a deal it was that I was doing it, like having grew up like hearing all this stuff about it. And I think it was a little bit more emotional too, because my dad actually passed away when I was 12. So after that
Oh,
happened, yeah. So Southwestern became this thing that like felt like connected me with him a lot, just
wow.
knowing what his experience was like. So then when I first started going through it, it was just like it was a lot of good emotions and a lot of
Right.
intense emotions.
That's wild.
But yeah, Amber Lee was awesome. Uh, she was the best person that I could have been paired with, I think, that week. Um, she just understood, where I was coming from and was there for me. And it was a great week. And then I remember being really sad that I was going to leave that group because they were awesome. They went to Michigan, and then I drove to North Carolina and moved in with, yeah, Amy was in my HQ my first summer. So was Emma Barnett, Aubrey
Oh,
Bell, and Mariah Porch. So
oh,
it was a great group.
yeah. I don't think I've met Mariah, but Emma I've met. She's so cool. And Aubrey was actually on the one of the episodes already. She's super awesome. So that's a
Yeah,
power
she's great.
HQ. That's
Yeah.
wild. Hold on. So wow, this is so amazing. So this whole sales school experience for you was like layered with all sorts of different emotions that are even beyond what a normal person would experience. I mean, you are a normal person, but you know what I mean? Like the fact that your parents sold books, your dad passes away at a very important age in your upbringing, and and then you have a way of bonding with him after the fact. That's wow, that's incredible.
Do you want to hear another crazy story?
Yes, yes, yes.
So this was kind of like a big sales school moment for me. And if Dan Moore ever watches these, he might appreciate rehearing this story. But I remember at sales school, the OLs and student leaders would like encourage us to go approach random people, approach people that you see on stage, approach, people like Mark Rao, Dan Moore, whatever. And I remember I decided that I wanted to approach Dan Moore that week, that was my goal. And I had a couple of moments where I like tried and it didn't work. But after a few days of trying to find him, finally, I got him for a second, and he had a minute, and I approached him. And after the approach, he did the normal Dan Moore thing, like asked about me, what's your name, where are you from, whatever. And I said, Tessa LaPlante. And he was like, LaPlante,
No
LaPlante,
way.
like Yvonne LaPlante.
No
And
way.
I was like, yeah, like Yvonne, that's my mom. And he's like, are you Rich LaPlante's daughter? And in that moment, I remember I was waterworks just a little bit, but got a little teary eyed. And I think he might have got a little teary eyed too. But it was just a crazy moment. And I had no idea that that Dan, I guess, would have known my parents. I guess I just didn't think that just like seeing him on stage, like knowing he was, where he was at that point, I had no idea that, they'd even crossed paths on years, let alone had a relationship where he
Unbelievable.
would remember. But also with Dan, you don't necessarily need to have a relationship for him to remember who you are, just because
Yeah.
that's one of his amazing qualities. But yeah, it was crazy, crazy cool. And
That's
and it just was one of those moments where you're like, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing the summer, and just feeling like super grateful that, you know, it worked out, I guess.
that's I mean, wow, this is so crazy. I mean, yeah. So first of all, yes, Dan Moore just would remember the name of a person that he just met for 30 seconds, I think. But it speaks to the impact that he teared up a little bit, for because the impact that your dad had on his life. That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. Holy cow. So we're just at
It's
sales school.
crazy.
We're not even,
Oh God.
wow. I got to tell you a story. I think I've told this already in the year, but I'll tell it to you just because here we are. And it's similar to that, and it has to do a little bit with Dan Moore. And it's kind of similar idea of like forgetting or remembering people. Um, there was so I'm dating a girl that lives in Portland. She's awesome.
This is
And
why
yeah,
you're moving to Portland.
yeah, yeah.
That's exciting.
It's one of the reasons I moved to Portland. Yeah, she's great. She's one of those people that was a book girl that never sold. You know what I'm talking about? There's people like that in life that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, if you had just heard about this at the right time, at the right place, you would have totally not just done it, but would have been wonderful at it. So
Mhm.
she's like that. And casually, it's a big moment. I'm gonna go to Portland to visit her, and I'm like, I want to hang out with your parents. Let's have some dinner with your parents. She was like, I mean, you can call my dad. And this is like the very first time I'm actually like spending quality time with him. So it's like a big deal, right? So I call him, say, hey, I'm gonna be in Oregon. She's from the coast, and so beautiful city, beautiful small coastal town in Oregon. And he's like, yeah, we'll do some fish. We'll catch it that morning. Sounds good. So cool. So we show up. We get there, and there's this family friend with him. His name is Alan Wood, and we're just talking and just chilling, kind of fun, having a good time, vibing. I'm using my Southwestern principles. At this point, you don't have to think about. You just know how to connect with people. So you're doing the thing. And he goes, I gotta say, man, like you're here talking about Nebraska, not her dad, but her dad's friend, family friend who's there.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, you're over here talking. Uh, and how did you like? Where did you seem so young to be able to like connect with people so well? Like, how did you pick up these skills? Like, where did you? I feel like some of this is learned. And I go, yeah, yeah. When I was in college, I sold books. And he goes, wait, with Southwestern? And I'm like, yes. Why? And he goes, I'm a 4 summer book man. And I went, no, in front of her dad, right? So,
That's a good.
so
That's
just
a good
old bookmen
moment.
talking about dads and old bookmen. So I'm like, okay, hold on, wait, what? How? He goes, yeah, I sold at the same time that Dan Moore did. And so like late 70s or
Wow.
yeah, mid to late 70s. And I'm like, what? I mean, so much to talk about. We talked about HQs. He talked about how and actually I'm trying to get him on this podcast, but he talked about how he like learned all these life lessons that people, he told people that he was going to go into advertising and sales in New York City and he was going to make it. And everybody in his hometown laughed at him. They're like, there's no
Mhm.
way, like you'll never make it. And he went and did that. And he is, I guess he was super successful. And then ended up moving to Oregon because he met his wife. Long story short, we connect over this. And this whole time he's like, man, that's where I learned all my life lessons. Anybody that sells books is a total badass. And her dad's just like
Dad's
watching.
right there.
And I'm like, stop. Keep going. He's like, yeah, I mean, any person that does this is a real man, like a real hard working human. Like if you sold 4 summers and you did what? And I told him what, and I'm like, do you keep in touch with anybody? He goes, yeah, I actually saw Dan like a couple of years ago. I went to Atrium Way and the company's changed, and I went to Landers Plaza, and he was like,
Wow.
and Dan remembered me like that, because he said the same thing you did, because like that's one of his many talents. He just remembers anybody on the spot.
Yeah.
And so, man, that was it was fun. And then we FaceTime
Wow.
Danny and Aisha, like they were like, what are you doing? It's kind of fun. So yeah, it was
Wow.
an interesting conversation. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I
That
felt
is
like I wanted to share that
so
real quick.
cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, but hang on. So I got to ask you a question. So, did you know at this point that you were going to be number one, or like when did that start happening for you? Because I know the feeling of doing well in the summer and getting off to I ended up number 9 my first summer, and throughout the middle of the summer there was like a spot there where it was like there was like 4 or 5 of us that were like switching places for number one in the pace setter. And I didn't even set out for that goal personally. I was just trying to like do my own thing, right? Was that like the same for you, or did you know you were going to crush it from like day one, or like how, walk me through that mentality?
Yeah. I think my first summer can be described as ignorance is bliss. Or maybe naive is another word for it. I I don't know. I just either wasn't checked into that whole aspect of it, or I don't know, was too overwhelmed with like the job aspect of it that I mean, I was surprised at the end of the
Really?
summer.
Huh.
And I guess looking back, like, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't really thinking about it during the summer because I don't know, I was just stressed about the rest of it. I didn't really look at the pace setters or, uh, yeah, I didn't know how many units each product was. Like, I would struggle to calculate my units at the end of the day, at the end of
No.
the week. It took me until, like, later in the summer to kind of figure that out. So, yeah, I guess I knew that I was doing well, or that I had weeks that I was doing well, but I don't know, I think a lot of the summer was me feeling like there was so much that I didn't know, or like that I didn't really know what I was doing, that I was just trying to figure it out, that that I don't know, that aspect didn't really motivate me. At least my
Mm,
first summer. I think as, coming back and um, you know, experiencing a year with Southwestern, going to meetings, learning about
mhm,
recruiting, seeing people's growth, like watching other examples of, this is what this person did their first summer, second, third, whatever. I think that I grew into be a lot more competitive and um, more, yeah, more, I guess, in tune with all that aspect too. But yeah, my first summer, not really.
yeah. Well, and that's interesting that you mentioned that, because so like we've had, so you're the, that I remember, you're the third, fourth number. There's probably more, but that I can really remember. Brandon Q was the number one, his rookie, his first summer. Shane Hertig was the number one, and then you, and I think Matt Atchison, um, for sure. And then there's a couple others probably, but point, my point is, like Brandon was like, I'm gonna murder it. He was like, I'm going to win. I think Shane's probably more like you, where it was like oh, I didn't know I was doing well. And then all of a sudden he like looks up and he's like crushing it. And I think Matt knew it. So I think that just kind of goes to show that, it doesn't really,
Different.
yeah, that's not the key. It doesn't seem to be anyway. For me, I didn't know. My first summer, I think it sold like 280 some units. And the manager that was helping me do my paper bar, because we didn't have the iPad, we were still doing paperwork, and she was helping me count up my units. And I would learn this later, but she sold like maybe 50 units. Liz Brewer is her name, and I sold 280 first week. And so she just played it so cool that it was helpful for me, because if she would have been like, oh, whoa, that's a fast start, then I would have probably derailed my summer, because I would have thought about that and only that. Instead, she was just like, she goes, how many units? And I said 280, whatever. She's like, oh, cool. Completely played it off. I didn't realize I was doing well until like week 5 or 6, and I hit PC and I beat every manager. We were doing like the circle at the Sunday meeting, and I was like the last person standing in the circle. And I was like, oh, I'm killing it. And I still didn't think I was killing it, because Katie Grassi, who has been on this podcast as well, had the same first summer, and she had sold like 900 units like week 4 as a rookie. And so we were, that was like the bar. And so I'm like 600, that's
not
like I'm getting crushed, and then I was in the front of the pace hitter, and then that's when it changed. And I think that was what derailed me a little. It didn't help with the consistency, because then I just focused only on that. So I think if I would have done it the way you did it, where it was like, I wish nobody had told me, and ignorance was key, that I think I would have done better. But it's interesting how it changes, right? So dang, that's if anybody's listening who's currently selling, don't worry about units, just go work hard, study hard, be coachable. That's wild. So then did you talk to your mom much during the summer, or what was that like, since she sold?
I think I might have talked to her every morning.
Oh.
Just for a few minutes on the way to church. It wasn't negative, it was just comforting. No, not in a bad way. Just comforting. You were calling
like, this sucks. Why'd you have me do this?
No, it was more like, okay, I'm on my way to church. And she's like already at her desk. She normally will start early. So I just liked the comfort of it, I think. I think my second summer, we talked the normal once a week, but my first summer, I think I at least tried to call her every day. We probably talked, I don't know, 4 or 5 times per week.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't talk to my parents at all. I think I called my dad for his birthday, and then mom for mom's week. I was like, I'm working.
That's good that you did that though.
Yeah, that's also advice. Don't call your parent. Call them once a week, and then don't call them again.
Once a week is good.
So then how the rest of this is going to be like a jump, but then, so you come back, you're number 1. And did you know right away you wanted to come back to do another summer, or were you like, I don't know if I want to do that again? Because you mentioned that you wanted to try to see and do something more in your field. Like, how did that work to come back? Because how many you did 4, right? You did 5. Oh, 1 up. Okay, cool. So how did that go?
Yeah, I remember I didn't know during the summer if I wanted to do it again. It was on that list of things that I couldn't think about. Like what we were talking about before. I just didn't have room to think about the next year. And it was checkout that I decided I wanted to come back. And yeah, it was for like a ton of reasons. I think the 2 big reasons were the people. So, like I mentioned, I lived with Emma Barnett, who is also one of my bestest friends now. But I remember, was like pumped to come back and be a student leader. And a lot of her siblings had done it for multiple summers. And I think that she always kind of looked at Southwestern as more of a like more than one summer kind of thing. So honestly, I think that influenced me a good bit. Also Amy in kind of an indirect way, like knowing that she had done 5 summers at that point and respecting her so much and just being convicted in, I guess, like the other things that I wanted to learn in
Mm,
the program that were like the leadership stuff and just like how confident she was and like so many things
right.
that I wanted to learn and grow more in. Um, I mean, honestly, I think my first summer, like the biggest thing that I gained was just proof of my work ethic and just like uh I guess follow through, like just the integrity aspect. But as far as
Mm,
like a lot of the like personal development where you actually feel like you come back and have changed, that I think that was all post first summer. And I don't know if I don't think it's like that one for everyone, but I definitely
mm,
really I wanted more, I guess.
right.
more more of the growth and stuff. So yeah, but I didn't, so I knew I wanted to come back as a student leader. I didn't know how many summers I would want to come back. I was just kind of starting one at a time. But I think after going through what was my second summer, that's when I decided that it was what I wanted to do as my thing in college, like at least do it for the 4 years after I graduated, kind of just leave it up to whatever's I thought would be best at that point.
Mm,
But yeah, after summer number two, and I think it's a lot of the same stuff, just like the relationships and the people, and
yeah.
knowing that there was so much more to grow in and so much more to learn, and knowing that, those are the things that are going to make a difference long term compared to what I would be doing if I was doing like an architecture internship. I studied architecture, so that's like what most of my friends were doing. I just felt that this was a lot more valuable to me. So yeah. And then I ended up doing it the fifth summer because, sorry, I'm like just jumping
No, go
ahead.
on. It's okay. It doesn't have to go in order. We'll probably come back and talk about this anyway. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Um, because I wanted to get the full timing experience. So I
Yeah.
hadn't done that yet. When I was in school, I was definitely very much in school. So I never like full timed while in school. Tried to in school, probably could still learn a lot more about that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, so after I graduated, I was like really excited. I just wanted like a year for Southwestern, like where I didn't have school, or I didn't have, other things that I was doing, just to be able to focus and
Mm,
just put like everything into it for a year.
mm.
So that's what I did. And it was like 2019, 2020. So that was last year. And yeah, just finished my last summer uh this this year.
Yeah. That's wild. And so how did you decide that it was time to hang up the blue backpack? I guess I'm assuming you had a blue backpack because you were a stud, but I never got the blue one. But how did you decide it was time to do, like, maybe that's a good transition and we can come back to more book stories, but what are you up to now and how did you decide this was the summer that you wanted to do that?
Yeah. Um I think for me, I'll always look at Southwestern. I think one of the beautiful things about Southwestern is that you can literally do it forever, and you will not stop learning. You will not stop growing. It will always be fulfilling, and you will always be surrounded by positive people. At least that is the experience that I had. Now for me, I I studied architecture. So I knew that that was what I wanted to do long term, probably after my first semester in college. So choosing to do Southwestern, I always knew, at least expected, that one day I would move on. And the
Mm,
goal would be to apply all of the things that I learned in Southwestern to go be a great architect or a good architect or be successful with architecture. That was like a big emotional purpose, I guess, for me wanting to do
right.
it. And honestly, I don't think that there's like a wrong time to do it. Um, I definitely believe in the whole, make a decision and make it right. I think that,
Mm.
every time
Oof.
someone decides to sell books, they can make that a good decision. It's up to them to do that. And if they choose to move on and go do something else, it's up to them to make that the right decision too. Um, so the reason I guess that I made the switch is I was just itching, I guess, to kind of get back into architecture and um, wanted, felt like it was time, at least for where I was at in life, for my day to day to be tied to my long term. Where I think with Southwestern, my day to day was tied to my long term inside, like, personally, personal development wise. But as far as like building up my skills as an architect and building momentum with the fields that I knew I was going to be working with, I wasn't necessarily doing that. So it just felt like it was
Mm.
time to make the switch. And um, I'm starting a process kind of from the ground up because I've never really had an architecture job before that was longer than just a couple of weeks as like a externship thing. I did a couple of those. But yeah, so now I'm in my first architecture job and I am learning a lot. And I'm learning how many things that you don't learn in school. And I'm excited to, it's kind of like I'm starting a new first summer, I guess. Like I'm excited to
Yeah,
kind
you're a
of
rookie
use,
again.
I'm a rookie again. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess I wanted to get the ball rolling, and that's kind of where the decision came from, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I guess what would you say, first of all, like so when I was a kid, I wanted to be an architect. Like that was one of the things I loved. I think it's such a cool thing.
Cool.
Um yeah, I thought it was cool. I remember watching movies when somebody was an architect, or like for example, How I Met Your Mother, he's an architect, and like the idea of designing a building and like make sure it's, you know, real and just take it from your mind to uh, I think that's so cool. So great, that's pretty awesome. What principles do you feel like that you learned that like are helping you now with that? Then like how did you, what are you, I mean, obviously besides the ones that were instilled in you, like being coachable and that stuff, being, control the controllables, but what are the ones that you think, man, every day I'm using this and transferring it into this career, or are there any of those?
Yeah. Um, I think that, let's see, there's so many things.
I know. It's like you use it every day. You don't even realize it. And you're like, oh, I learned that from Southwestern.
Well, I think the whole job process thing, that was a very direct correlation from things I learned in Southwestern. Because I was looking for a job mid shutdown, and most
Mm,
architecture firms are like sub 50 people. So during COVID, a lot of internships and entry level positions got uh, canceled or whatever. They took them
mm,
out just because of financially, or there weren't a lot of projects necessarily being done during COVID. I think things have picked up now. Um, so it was definitely a numbers game as far as finding a job. And I tried to, I guess I felt like I was approaching it like selling books, like trying to find a job. Like I would send out just applications constantly, just putting my foot in as many doors as I can, I could. Um, and what I found, I guess, was it's like, I don't know, I feel like everything is a numbers game, and like finding a job was a numbers game. And but you have to have faith and you have to just keep doing it. And you have to just, you know, if you get rejected, because I got rejected a lot too, you just have to apply to the next place.
mm,
So that was like, I probably a month process. I was kind of doing it on and off, just trying to find something that I was happy with. And then also not settling and knowing that you have a lot to offer. So, like, uh, that whole aspect of it
mhm.
too. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, just keeping your attitude up and keeping your faith up, and um, And yeah, just knowing that it was around the corner for you. You just keep looking. That was a really
That's pretty wild.
extended story.
No, that's wild.
But
And I think that speaks to, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's what matters. You know what I mean? It's interesting when you run into people in life that don't have that basic knowledge of like, hey, it's okay. On to the next one, right? And you think that's, you just get so used to that internally and naturally, because that's really what Southwestern does, is you don't have to think about the rejection as much, right? You still do. Sometimes you're like, oh, that
mhm,
one kind of hurt. Moving on, right? And you still do, but for some people, it trips them completely. Like it trips them up, and so even with people that I know, it's like not close friends or anything, but just this person, you meet them and they have a terrible attitude, and you're like, oh, you're not their coach, but in your mind, you think to yourself like, man, thank God that's something I was able to keep up. I love that you said to keep up your faith as well, because there's sometimes it's recognizing that it's not all in your control, but you're doing everything you can with your attitude, and then also understanding that, also believing in the fact that because your attitude is good, that things will come out. You have to choose to believe that too, because you could choose to have a good attitude and not choose to think that things are going to work out. It's
yeah,
almost like it's like unique. You know what I'm saying? It takes that extra faith to be like, because I'm doing everything I can, it will work out. And
yeah.
that's a confidence it's hard to get rid of. It's pretty solid confidence. And so, dang, that's pretty awesome. So now, do you design homes? Or do you design skyscrapers, windmills? What are you designing?
So I work for a firm called Neighboring Concepts. They do a lot of different kind of projects. They do a lot of like urban design projects, so like transit. Um, we're working on some bus stops right now in Raleigh, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of city projects, so like schools and like uh, housing for the city. They don't do homes. That's probably the only thing that they don't do.
Well,
Long term, though, I would love to do homes. That's like what got me into architecture. But right now, I'm just trying to learn about as many things as I can.
so if I was like, hey, 5 years from now, I'm like, hey, I want you to design my house. Could you just boom? Is that something I could?
You could ask me
Yeah.
after grad school. So I have to go back to grad school to be able to get my license, and then I can
Mm,
actually sign off on documents to be built. So that's probably going to be 2 years of school. I kind of want to work for a couple years before or a few years before. So 5 years might be a the minimum
yeah.
or the minimum.
You're the only. There was another book kid that was in architecture school, Corey Teal. He sold at least one summer. He was Sizzler MVP my first summer. Um,
Ooh,
Partied
you
hard,
should
but
definitely call me in 5 to 10 years
I was gonna say, but you're the only one that I guess still have a connection with, clearly. So
though.
if I have to wait 5 years for someone I know to design my house that I would trust because of all this, then heck yeah, I'll wait. You're gonna design my house someday.
Perfect.
That's so cool. So I didn't know that that's how it worked. So
Put you on the
you
list.
have to have like a okay, a grad school so you can like do the paperwork and all that stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
Dang. So then uh, and now I'm all intrigued about architecture and not even talking about Southwestern, but the firm that you're with, is that like something that you're like a rookie, so that like you have to move your way up through that, or is this more like would you ever want to have like your own and you're learning from it, or like what's the plan here with where you're at, or are you allowed to say?
Pause. Can you see me now? You
Yeah.
paused.
Uh-oh.
Okay. You asked if I was a rookie.
Yeah. So like as a rookie, um, are you trying to move your way up, or is this like a stepping stone to like build, like own your own and then use your Southwestern knowledge that way, or are you trying to just have this for like an experience builder? What's the future look like for you besides grad school?
Yeah. Yeah. I see this job right now as like an extension of my schooling, basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
my official position is an entry-level architect. And one reason I picked this firm to work at was because they are very much about collaboration, and I'm everyone is on they try to have everyone kind of on a similar playing field. So even though I haven't had a long-term or a full-time job before, at a lot of places, when you're just entering into architecture, you're going to be doing a lot of just production, just a lot of drawing work just to help um, move projects along, basically. So you're at like the bottom of the totem pole, just because
Mm,
there's a lot of drawings to do. But one thing I really like about neighboring is they're kind of more like an all hands on deck approach where everyone's working on drawings, everyone is having a say in design. The goal is that you're seeing into all different parts of the process rather than just being a they call it a CAD monkey because that's like one of the drawing programs, a CAD
yeah.
monkey. So but I'm definitely entry level, so I'm definitely just learning a ton and having to ask a lot of questions and do my best to like learn things on my own too. But so far it's been going really well, and I definitely like them, and I could see myself working here up until whenever I decided to go to grad school. Um, and then who knows? After grad school, I have a feeling I'll probably go work for either a different firm or come back and continue to work for someone else, just because there is a lot to learn. I had an interview. I interviewed the uh, whatchamacallit, principal of the firm and asked him a bunch of questions about like how he got to where he was at. And one thing he shared, he said, it takes 30 years to really become an architect.
Oh
And
my God.
what he meant by that, I think, was just like how much, there is to learn. And like for him, it took him a long time to like develop the confidence, like technically, business wise, like all sorts of stuff to like make that jump. And obviously the goal would be to be able to make that jump as quickly as possible and like go out and start my own thing, but also to like be humble and know that there's a lot to learn and a lot of people to learn from
Yeah.
before I would ever get to that point. So just gonna trust the process. Like with Southwestern, just gotta trust the process and see where
Coach,
it takes me.
man, I think you're gonna be all right. You're gonna do great. From everything, I mean, so far, like it's when you say try to be humble, it's like that seems like a natural ability of yours. You're super. Your humility is pretty awesome. So good for you. You're a super cool person, and I think you're gonna kill it. I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited for you to design my house someday. It's gonna
That's gonna
happen.
be so fun.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
start
so
Pinteresting now.
yeah, I was gonna say, how does that work? Do I just go, hey, here's what I want, and then you go, okay, I will tell you what of this is possible and what's not, or do you go, here's what I have, and I go, no, yeah, like, is it both? Probably.
Both, probably. Yeah, whatever
I'm
you
gonna.
want.
I want a helipad. I want.
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
want.
grab something to write with. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
write this. You. That's good. Write that down. Yeah, that's hilarious. Cool.
A helipad.
Well, yeah, helipad. I definitely want um, arches, marble arches. On a side note, there's a Frank Lloyd Wright house here in Nebraska. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, the fact that I even know, a nerd about it, but it's in McCook, which actually is from where Kelsey's from, Kelsey Kilpatrick.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
her.
I stayed with Kelsey at Aisha and Danny's baby shower. Is that where she lives now? No, she lives in Lincoln now,
Yeah, she lives in Lincoln. So McCook's like 4.5 hours away.
where she's
Is this?
from. Okay.
Yeah, that's where she's from originally, and that yeah, we went to like I've been to the house. They used to have it. Somebody owns it now, I think, but they used to be. I can't remember what the story what it was, but like he designed a house in there, and it's kind of like a little claim to fame for McCook,
Mm,
Nebraska.
that's cool.
FYI, yeah,
I
but
should
yeah,
visit.
yeah, you should go check it out. It's pretty cool. So yeah, famous architect if you don't know. If you're listening, you don't know who Frank Lloyd Wright is. A little trivia, non-listeners. So yeah. All right, so throw me I'll give you a dealer's choice here. So either we could chat a little bit more about like your experience through your later summers, or you can throw me like a couple of like pony stories or the pony story. I guess I'll let you pick based on how much time you have.
Hmm. Okay. So the options were talking more or throwing some stories at you.
Yeah, well, we and talk more because like I feel like there's a lot to share. Like your first summer is awesome to share about and about lessons learned. But then like when you talk about your experience as a manager, it's almost like a different story, you know, because the things I remember from my first summer versus like coaching Danny and Aisha, you know, I mean, it's almost like a different career in Southwestern in and of itself. Um, or
Well, how
like,
about
go ahead.
I was gonna say, how about you tell me what that was like for you, and then
Oh,
I can share my pony story.
heck yeah. Okay. You're talking about like Danny and Aisha specifically?
The whole what you said about like your in the leadership experience and
Oh,
what you kind of learned in that.
okay. I can do that. So that way you can like process your favorite like pony story. Because we're gonna obviously have to have you back because we need to talk to you and your mom.
Yvonne.
uh, yeah, Yvonne, that's a French ass name. Um,
It is.
yeah, it's super French. Um, okay, so you know, because I sold books, and in my life, it was the first thing that I had ever done that I chose to bring upon myself. I don't know if you know much about my story and Danny's story about moving here, um, but you know, all of that stuff that happened in my life, I didn't pick. You know what I mean? It just happened to me, and then I had to grow through it. But this is the first time in my life that I was like, man, I could choose to completely not do this at all, and I'll go back to Grand Island, the island, and just do whatever I was going to do. I think I was going to work at the mall. I sold shoes at the store. Um, and so that was different. And you know, there are imperfections with Southwestern. There's things that, you know, still probably could be better, but that's the case for anybody, any company, any person. Um, and the the point is I went through this like crazy experience that really has shaped a lot of my decision making, a lot of my ability to succeed and to fail at all sorts of different things over the last, you know, 8 years. And so it was tough. It was hard. It was sometimes it was miserable, but it wasn't about that. It was about the ability to overcome the hardship, over like to ask yourself, who the heck are you? And can you do this, you know?
Mhm.
And the answer is always yes, you know, but just to really sit down with yourself, because there was nobody ever in the car with you. You didn't have to go knock on the door, right? But you did. And it was hot, and sometimes it was rainy, and all this crazy stuff that was internal emotionally and external emotionally. um, and I grew a ton, you know. And then I come back and I'm walking a little taller, still needed to be humbled by life and God or whatever universe people believe in. But um, my mom and my dad saw that growth, and they were like, you need to take your brother with you. And so, you know, of all the people, so at that point I had actually met Aisha. She was already had been recruited by Angela Berkey, who was another awesome alumni. You probably met her at the baby shower. Um,
I know.
she's getting married this weekend, actually. So how exciting for that.
Ooh.
Um, but the point is, you know, I was training Aisha, and then on the one hand, I was like over here spending a lot of time with Aisha, teaching her to like do well, because I was the number one person of our campus. And so, you know, she was one of her sharper students. So it was like, all right, you're going to spend time coaching her, you know, teaching her. And Angela was busy also because she was doing her own stuff at school. So between Angela and I, we were trying to coach this person to be really great. On the other hand, I have this 17-year-old kid who has been my little brother forever, right? Since his entire life. And and I've known him. I've seen his weaknesses, right? It's not my place to share on the air, but everybody's got weaknesses, and I recognize them. And in my head, I'm like, he could definitely do this, but is he ready? Right? He's 17. He's graduating high school, and he graduated high school early, so he would be selling as a 17-year-old kid to some kids who are about to be seniors in high school who are 18 or 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the the fraternal instinct of my little brother and being protective kicked in, and so all of a sudden Southwestern went from something I did that I was good at. People, how it is when you do well, they treat you like royalty sometimes, which maybe isn't always a good thing. And I went from that to now I get a coach, this super sharp girl and this 17-year-old. He had like long shaggy hair that he would do the beaver. He had the beaver trying to do the thing. Can you imagine? Like, you can't imagine that now, right?
I'm trying, but it's hard.
It's actually the first time I talked about this. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting. So it was all weird because he kind of was like you, where he graduated high school after we'd already left for the book field. So I remember calling Yvette and I'm like, well, and here's another thing. I flew Danny right after my first summer. I made a bunch of money. So I flew Danny out to New York because I was selling in upstate New York, and I flew him to New York City, and we spent like 2 days in New York City just blowing a bunch of money. We went to like the Blue Man's group. We rented bikes and rode them through Central Park. And he was like, this is pretty cool. Like, not impressed, nothing, just not even interested. He gets to check out. He sees me do the thing, watches me get the big check. And then I flew, what really happened is I flew him out to GRS. Before I even talked to him about coming out, I hadn't even brought it up. I was like, hey, do you want to come to Nashville? I'm doing this thing and I'm being celebrated, whatever, let's go. And I think that was when he decided he wanted to sell books. And so the conversation then switched, and all of a sudden he was like, hey, so how do I do this? I hadn't mentioned anything.
I love it.
And he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, this is really cool. Like, a lot of really cool. I think he was moved by the people. He watched Dan Moore speak and give his like Life 101 talk, which should be recorded and plastered everywhere because it's so good. He just kind of witnessed all of that, and he goes, I want to do this. I said, no, I don't know if you want to do this, man. Like, I don't even know if you can. I was trying to like take away, like, and he goes, no, I for sure want to do this. I want to try it. And I go, I don't know, like, I'll ask you that. It was cool. So he comes out late. Never been on an interstate before, I don't think. He's driving to Nashville, and I'm already at the book field. So yeah, that's just like walk. I would listen to voicemails at night from Yvette going, okay, so your brother's in Nashville. He's in sales school. He's out here.
Wow.
And I'm over here like, oh, what the heck? So this is now like, and it was several weeks later. Like, it was, he went to a sales school that was small, and but again, it was such a different experience because again, I was now managing 5 book kids over here, trying to be a manager, trying to find HQs for people. It was a different experience, I feel like, and going out the second time at least is definitely mind blowing. But when it's your little brother, it's different because now I was really nervous. And so I was nervous because I knew what he was about to go through, and it's hard to be like, what if he hates it? What if he's terrible at it? What if he fails? And so what does that do to our friendship? What does that do to our relationship? And he showed up, lost his keys. He followed me he got there, and that rest of the afternoon he followed me. The next day he went and followed another manager and lost his keys. So he was a walker his first week. Because of course he lost his keys. Like, that's the kind of person I was dealing with. I'm like, gosh, I never had car problems my whole first summer. This kid loses his keys and like, and so, and meanwhile, Aisha's just crushing it. It's like week 3, she's murdering it. And I remember I had to drop him off at his first door, and I cried because he got out of the car and he went. I actually ended up dropping him off at one of those houses that they're actually apartments, and I didn't know.
Oh.
Yeah. It's all of the houses in the neighborhood were that way, so you had to like walk like 2 miles the wrong way. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, but he figured it out. He and as we know now, he ended up being extremely successful with it, and is I think whenever it is his time to go, whether it's 10 years from now or whatever, like he'll be a legend. He'll be he'll be a legendary book guy. And it's cool to see him
He
where he's
is
at now.
already.
Yeah, he's a legend right now, right? He is a legend already. And but it was interesting because I know that side of him personally. And 2 weeks ago, I watched him changing his baby's diaper, you know,
Oh,
and it's wild to think about because you think about it all the time, and you're like, your brother is, you're gonna be a dad, how exciting! You picture it, you see all the baby shower, you see all the diapers, you see all the things, you see all the strollers and stuff.
it's
But
crazy.
it wasn't until I went around the corner and I saw him with this crying infant with a big diaper full of poop. He's over there like cleaning up and changing it, and you're like, it was the same kid I dropped off that house,
Yeah.
but it was
Wow.
also the man that I knew he could be, and it was who I pictured him to
Wow.
be back then, and he exceeded all expectations, and he's still doing it now. And so I'm extremely proud. But it's a different experience than your first summer. Which is the point I
Yeah.
was trying to make. It's like when you go into a leadership role, whether it's in Southwestern or anything else, and you see people for who they can become and not just for who they are, it, and then you pour into them and then hope that I'm assuming that's kind of what parenting might be like, but I don't know.
I was
He'll find
just,
out.
yeah, thinking
He'll
that.
find out. But when you pour into people with love and with care, and hopefully it clicks, and lead by example. I failed as a leader for him so many times, still do, but to witness that and just see the culmination of a baby that he created with his wife, who he met selling books, it's just like such a wild thing that, thank God I said yes to go sell books, and thank God he said yes to
Mm-hmm.
go sell books, and my manager, it goes back that way. But that doing that is a good way of paying it forward. And yeah, just I'm happy that happened. So hope that answers your question.
That was such an amazing way to put it and such a great story.
Yeah,
It's just like the
Danny's
full circle of it all.
Danny's a beast, and Aisha. That kid is in great hands. And so
Little
yeah,
Vico
he's gonna be a killer. He's gonna be
with
awesome.
the coolest uncle out there.
Julian is great. You're right. He's awesome. But thank you. Appreciate
Wait,
that.
do you have another brother?
Yeah, Julian. He wasn't at the baby shower because he could not get off work, unfortunately. But yeah, we have a younger
I
one.
didn't know.
He just graduated high school um a week or two ago, like 16th.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and
Oh,
he's yeah,
wait,
like
your
just now.
brother just graduated high school?
Yeah,
So do we
just
think
recently.
that he's gonna sell books?
I don't know. Maybe that we'll see. He wants to. I think he understands like the opportunity of growth and self-discovery. But he also kind of likes the idea of like doing his own thing and kind of,
Mhm.
you know, because we're apart enough in difference that in age that like um he kind of paved it, like he wasn't an athlete, and he didn't really like play like any sports at all in general, like, but he is an incredible musician. And so
Wow.
but he does have the qualities. He has the qualities. We were at a wedding. Sorry, I'm telling you about my family right now. But
I'm
we
asking. It's okay.
we were doing his senior pictures. My girlfriend took him, and he had his guitar out. We were in Lincoln, and this guy comes up to him, or to me. I'm holding the guitar while he's taking pictures. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Do you play the guitar?" I'm like, "No, you don't want to talk to that kid over there because
Mhm.
he's a freak of nature at the guitar."
Mhm.
And he like walks up to this 17-year-old kid again. What is it with my brothers and being 17?
Being
And
17.
and he walks up to me and he's like, "Hey man, crazy story. My fiance is on her way here. We're in a low budget wedding. I'm from Florida. She's from Seattle, and we met online playing video games. I don't have money to do a lot of things, but she's literally on her way. And I was wondering if you knew any songs by the Beatles." Now, turns out that Julian's favorite band, or one of his favorite bands, is the Beatles.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, and now, mind you, he's never played in public or really for anybody else except for his couple group of friends who he has a small band with, and like my mom and myself and Danny, like just the family, and my dad. And so he goes, "Yeah." So she gets there, and he plays something, It's called the song "Something" by the Beatles, and it's this beautiful love song. And not only did he like nail the vocals and the guitar, but he also knew how to like follow read the situation. He like would slow down and just be instrumental for a little bit while someone was talking, and then he'd like go back and read the
Oh my God.
situation completely perfectly. And I'm like, this kid is a book kid, because he said he videos out there somewhere, but he's obviously nervous, but he did it scared anyway, which is kind of the whole point of Southwestern, is do it
Yeah.
scared, right? So he's got the
Wow.
qualities, but maybe he'll go out for a couple summers or something. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, he's got Vaco's got two cool uncles for sure.
He does.
So
I've got
pull
to meet
that.
the second Gamboa brother, or the
That's
third, I
right.
mean.
That's right. The third. That's right. The third. And so yeah, I love my family, obviously. So on that note,
Awesome.
back to you. Do you figure out what you want, the story you want to share, like the pony, the big one?
Yeah, I was trying to think of something. I have one story that is kind of like a random cool thing of like when I got this job that's book related.
Let's
So
do
I
it.
can share that.
Yeah, I can.
So, okay, so applied online for this job. It was just like a generic posting for an entry level position. And it was also totally random that I even applied in Charlotte because I was looking for jobs in Florida, just because that's where most of my family and friends live. But my mom moved here while I was in college. So when I was just going through the numbers of it, I was like, I feel like I should open up my range and not be so picky. So yeah, I sent out like a few random applications in Charlotte. And about a week later, heard a response back. Went and had my first interview in person at their office. And then the second interview was remote the next day. And the second interview was the two like main guys at the firm. And then at the end, they like let other people hop on and whatever to meet other people in the office. Anyway, I had already met one of the main guys the day before, Luke. And the second guy, Dan, I was just meeting him for the first time. And we were talking, and we started talking about my resume, and he he brought up Southwestern.
Oh.
He was like, Southwestern, is that like the book company? And
Yes.
I was like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, is that like that thing? Do you like go relocate? Do you like move somewhere for the summer and like sell like these big books door to door? And I was like, yeah, that's what I did. And he was like, I think my friend did that in college. And he texts his friend in the middle of my interview. And he was like, he asked him if it was the same company. And his friend is named Joe Landman. Does that ring a bell? He sold
No.
the same era as Ryan Davis, which is
Okay,
what I
so he's a
learned.
little bit earlier than me.
A little bit
Yeah,
older. That's what I thought.
yeah.
Anyway,
So
Joe texted back.
he's like me to you. Just as I was leaving, you
Oh,
were coming.
not
Yeah.
not long. Okay.
No, because
Um,
Davis sold in like 08, 09, 07 maybe.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
Joe was like his OL his first summer. So Joe was like kind of the era right before that.
Okay. Because I was in my first summer was 2012. So yeah, it must have been a little bit before me. But cool.
Okay.
Okay. So you text this guy.
So he texts his friend and Joe texts back, yes, that's the same company. And Dan texts him, I'm interviewing someone who did that in college. And Joe, they're doing this whole thing like in the middle of the interview. Um,
You're just
and
like
Joe's like, how many summers? And Dan asked me, he's like, Joe asked how many summers.
you're just
And he's like,
relaying all the
five.
stats.
I know. I'm trying to paint the picture, but it's anyway, he texts Joe back. He's like 5 summers, and Joe sent him this like really nice message after saying, well, if she sold books, she's definitely a really hard worker and has a ton of resilience, and you should definitely hire her. And it was really positive to happen
No
in the middle of the
way.
interview. But it was super cool. And then Joe found out later that he sold for 8 summers. His sister actually was a DSL, who I don't remember her name, but I think him and his 2 sisters both sold. And he
Whoa.
met his wife Kristen, selling
Wow.
books, who she sold for 4 summers. And yeah, they ended
Wow.
up being super cool. After I was working for the company for a little bit, Martin, you know Martin. Do you know Martin Polipiak?
That
He's
sounds
Eagle
familiar.
Blitz. He's my same summer.
That sounds familiar. I probably,
He's from
if I saw him, I'd be like,
He's
I know
from
you.
Argentina. He has
Okay.
glasses, like
Big, thick
curly
hair.
hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know who that is. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool.
So Martin and I started dating last September. But he came to visit in the spring, and it worked out where I asked Dan, because Dan was like, we need to figure out a way for you and Joe to meet and stuff.
Yeah.
So Dan invited Joe and Kristen and their family. They've got like 4 kids. And then me and my mom and Martin and my other friend came. And yeah, I got to meet Joe and Kristen. They
Wow.
are super cool. Joe's like super involved at his church. He might be a pastor there. And Kristen does like a bunch of different types of things, but just super awesome people, super down to earth. And yeah, him and Dan just met randomly in like a running club here like a few years ago. And Dan had just remembered that he talked about selling books in college, and happened to make that
Wild.
connection. And then Joe and Kristen actually ended up talking on the parent production seminar this year, because we met them on the same day of it. And Martin asked him if he could talk.
You're swinging.
And so that afternoon, him and Kristen gave this whole part to all the parents. But yeah, just like so many like crazy things like that, where it just makes you
Wow.
so grateful for like all the random connections that exist. It's crazy. You never
Yeah.
know when you're gonna run into somebody
Yeah. Just,
who either did it or was, connected to someone that did.
yeah. That's so wild. Like just right there, that alone, that, you're cool enough to have gotten that job on your own anyway, but just the trust that was immediately established, even with someone that didn't sell books, just because he had a mutual connection of that. And then they were like,
Mm.
yep, like that probably solidified it for them. And oh man, that's cool. That's awesome. Just texting you in the middle of your interview. You're probably just
It
like,
was,
what the heck?
yeah, I didn't, I wasn't sure
Oh,
what I should do, but it was really, it was really cool and unexpected, I guess.
yeah. And in job interviews, when people ask about your Southwestern resume, you're like, oh boy, here we go. Like you're just like, buckle up. This is about to be a story. That's awesome. Dang. Well, wow. Well, yeah, it's been super fun having you on. Can we please do an episode with you and your mom? I
She'll
feel
do
like
it. Yeah.
that'd be
I'll
so
ask
cool.
her.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
if it's cool with her, obviously if it's cool with her, but if not, that's totally okay too.
No, yeah, she would
Uh,
love to meet you. And yeah, she would think this was super cool. She's got lots of stories.
yeah, well, and I'm trying to get to know people that sold earlier, because so far we've only pretty much had people who sold in the 2000s or mid 90s, like Yvette, and then like your time, our time frame. But I'm looking for like some like, we haven't had a really like, we sold in the 80s, and let me tell you, like someone like that. And
That would
so
be her, that would be her perspective.
yeah, heck yeah, just to see how times have changed, and what it was like back then, and what is different, what is the same. So that'd be cool. So we'll look forward to that. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll close. Nick usually tells us who's coming up next. I know we have some people coming up next. We'll have to share about that later on. Stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Glad we
And for
did this.
sharing all about your experiences too.
No, Thanks for asking. We don't really get to talk about much about our end with Nick, but it's kind of nice when people ask. So cool. Thanks for asking.
Went back and forth a little bit.
That's right. I liked it. So we'll see you next time. I'll see you. I'll probably be seeing you during events and stuff like that. Keep in touch, and then yeah, stay tuned in. Hopefully, feel free. I'll have this uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and it's on Facebook and it'll be on YouTube, so you can share as much as you want on there as well.
Sounds
Cool.
awesome. Thanks for having me on,
Yeah,
Grace.
for sure.
Have
Signing up.
an awesome rest of your night.
Heck yeah. See
Yeah.
you guys later. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.